Tonight, the Chicago Bulls face off versus the Dallas Mavericks. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk about why tonight is just the beginning for the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls have a major challenge ahead of them coming in the next 6 games. Y'all know we're going to talk about it all, break it down, but you know you got to hear the music first.
Cognac. Gang.
CDubb Boys podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. If you tuned in for the first time, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And for those that are coming back, welcome back to the show. Now, we know the Chicago Bulls, through their first 7 games, it's been some good moments, there's been some frustrating moments, and there's been some bad moments for the Chicago Bulls team. They currently sit at 3-4 on the season, and tonight, they continue on through their season facing off versus the Dallas Mavericks. And it's a challenge ahead for them starting tonight for a number of reasons. The Chicago Bulls, they just dropped 2 games to where many of us believe that those were 2 winnable games that the Chicago Bulls could have won. But obviously, they didn't go out there. They did not take care of business. And this is where we are right now. And even in entering tonight's game, the Chicago Bulls versus the Dallas Mavericks tonight, the Chicago Bulls have 4 players on their injury report that are listed as a game-time decision for tonight's matchup versus the Dallas Mavericks. Zach LaVine, he's a game-time decision with a thigh injury. You got Josh Giddey dealing with a little bit of illness, but they saying it's not COVID. You got P. Will dealing with a shoulder, and Jalen Smith dealing with his knee. Now, the Bulls' next 6 games include some tough matchups. So not only are you dealing with the injuries and you're dealing with the young team, you are dealing with some teams that are coming in here that pose a challenge for your young team who can play well and who can compete. But these other teams that the Chicago Bulls are going to be facing probably got a little bit more to say right now than the Chicago Bulls. Tonight they kick things off versus the Mavs. Then they have a game versus Minnesota, Atlanta, then they see Cleveland twice, and in between that, they see the Knicks once. So those teams, those are 4 playoff teams that you're going to be facing off against in the next 6 games. The Atlanta Hawks is a team that's always giving the Bulls a fight for their money. Whether the Bulls will win or lose, their battles with the Atlanta Hawks have always been a challenge for sure. So tough road ahead for your Chicago Bulls. But obviously, we got to start to talk about what's going to take place tonight for the Chicago Bulls. These guys, again, will be in Dallas. And we know Dallas is a team that found themselves having some great success last season, and they went on and added a lot of pieces throughout the last season, and even added and had a major acquisition of Klay Thompson coming into this season. And they look like these guys could be very well fighting for a finals appearance for sure. Luka, he poses a threat just by himself. We know what Luka can do. The question is who's going to be defending him. We know that Patrick Williams, when it comes to your starting 5, is the best defender out there and the guy that could be somebody that you absolutely match up versus Luka. But my question is when it comes to that matchup, if Patrick Williams is not ready to go, where do you look to? Bulls going to have to figure that one out. Kyrie Irving, we talking about that in the guard battle. Now, we know that we got some decent guards, but not to the scoring level of a Kyrie Irving right now per se. But we know that Kyrie Irving, if he was to be in the game alongside and battling Zach LaVine, that'll be a matchup that'll be very, very interesting to see how those 2 guys, our guy and their guy, battle on the basketball court for the sake of just giving everybody a show. And just because we know that both of these guys are some scoring guys that can score the basketball at an amazing clip if you allow them to get cooking. Then we talking about the addition of Klay Thompson. Look, Klay Thompson, my man is up there in age, but he's still a hell of a 3-point shooter. My man's Klay Thompson is definitely going to pose a threat to the Chicago Bulls, especially with the movements. So the biggest challenge when it comes to how can you contain Klay Thompson is going to be on a defensive end, Communication is gonna have to be up there. It's gonna have to be above average, because the Chicago Bulls defense has been average. Their defensive communication and their rotations to get up on Luka, to get up on Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson, it's going to be a tall task for them. And I know we remember a few years ago and how many times we faced throughout these last few years, how many times we faced the Dallas Mavericks, how many times has Luka Doncic and whoever his big was has given us problems with their pick and roll. So that's why this matchup tonight is going to be huge for the Chicago Bulls bigs. Huge for the Chicago Bulls big. We talking about Nikola Vucevic and the guy that's on your injury report and Jalen Smith. I know Adama Sanogo has been a part of this team a little bit this season, but is he ready to battle with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford? We shall see, and I'm hoping that Jalen Smith could be ready for this game because the Bulls are absolutely going to need everything out of him and Nikola Vucevic, who's been on a heater. I never thought I'd be saying it this at this point of this season, but Nikola Vucevic has been playing outstanding basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see how Billy Donovan utilizes his bigs versus their bigs, because you're getting two bigs who account for 15 rebounds just between the two of them and about 2 blocks just between the two of them. So these are very athletic bigs in Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls defend them and see if Billy Donovan trots out a lineup that's just absolutely too small. It's going to be some challenges with Billy Donovan and how he presents his lineup versus these two bigs, especially when you got to see how the hell you're going to be able to contain the man of the show in Luka Doncic. It's going to be interesting. I am expecting a lot of the Chicago Bulls players to play tonight. These guys that are listed as game time decisions, but if they don't play, there is no shot. Unless the Bulls want to come out and surprise somebody. Are the Bulls going to come out and surprise somebody? Maybe. They absolutely can. This is the NBA. We've seen a lot of weirdness going on through all sports these last few weeks. Don't talk about what I've been going through in Chicago. Please don't do that one. But what we do know is that tonight, tall task for this Bulls squad. Now, one way that the Bulls could make this a very interesting game is, number one, by taking care of the basketball, but also pushing the pace. I know that the Dallas Mavericks are a team that could very well operate with some type of pace, could very well operate and utilize their bigs to a degree, but with the way that Luka plays basketball, there will be opportunities for the Bulls to kind of outrun this team. But you can outrun them all you want, but if you turn over this basketball, it's going to get ugly. It's very well going to get ugly for your Chicago Bulls if they don't get out and run and protect the basketball. And on the defensive side, it's going to take everybody. It's going to take all guys involved. Because if you come out and think you about to play the Dallas Mavericks like you played the Utah Jazz, you're going to get smoked. You're going to get smoked. Because in that Utah Jazz game, the Chicago Bulls, they did not shoot the ball well. They did not defend well. I mean, these guys tried to give it a fight, but if you think you about to go down versus this Dallas Mav team about 20 points, and you think you're gonna be able to squeak and fight and claw, yeah, you very well could do that. But the chances of that are happening versus all this firepower that they got on their squad, no, it's gonna be real challenging for this team for sure. And I tell you what, they come in this thing shooting 37% from the three. That's decent. It's not all the way bad. But for them, they're going to have to shoot at a better clip, and they definitely going to have to knock down more than 14 on the night. I think it's going to be some challenges that's going to be presented from the Bulls aspect when it comes to the three-point shooting category of the game, defending the Dallas Mavericks. But they could very well do it. They could very well do it, but it's going to take a collective. I tell you one thing that I think that's going to be interesting is that the young guys that's coming in here, your Julian Phillips, who come in and play 16 minutes and doesn't really contribute, that's not helping the team. That ain't going to help you upset a team like the Dallas Mavericks. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that this team is unbeatable, but I am going to come into this game with the knowledge knowing that the Dallas Mavericks are better than the Chicago Bulls, and they come in with a lot of firepower. a lot of firepower. So if the Chicago Bulls start this game slow, if they find themselves behind early, it could be for a number of reasons. But we know once you let stars start to cook and feel themselves and get hot, it could be an ugly night, especially when you got Kyrie Irving on the other side, Klay Thompson on the other side, Luka Doncic on the other side. Because we know Klay Thompson, he loves playing the Chicago Bulls. Seems like every single time Klay Thompson played the Chicago Bulls, it's a record being set. Every time Luka Doncic played the Chicago Bulls, it's pick and roll, baby. And they're gonna run it up. Kyrie Irving, I can say that Kyrie Irving hasn't had the best of games versus the Chicago Bulls these last few years. But guess what? One of the guys that was a part of that and a part of the squad was he ain't here no more. Alex Caruso. So it's Ayo Dosunmu ready to step up. I think that he's gonna be one of the guys guarding Kyrie Irving. And he gonna have to come through. I think that one of the advantages of that matchup between Kyrie Irving and Ayo Dosunmu is Ayo Dosunmu has the length. But the problem is Kyrie got the pad. And he can dice you up, but he ain't been that good versus the Chicago Bulls these last few years. But we'll see what's gonna happen. But ultimately, these guys definitely got to lock in. They're gonna have to go from there and move on to see and move on from the last two games and come into this game and see if they can surprise some people. Because right now, I don't know. We already on a 2-game losing streak. Trying to see if these guys can come out here and handle business. They surprised us in the first 7 games with a couple wins. Hey, at one point, these guys were 3-2. Now they're 3-4, and they lost two of their last games. So we shall see what happens with that. But the challenge is on its way. We're going to see if these guys can at least get a little bit more healthy. And we're going to see if these guys are going to be able to rise to the occasion. We already know that Lonzo Ball we should be hearing a little bit update on Lonzo Ball coming up here soon. I think we just got probably until Saturday. We should be hearing a little bit of more Lonzo Ball. But in the meantime, I'm hoping that everybody that's listed on this injury report could be making their way back to basketball activities just so we can root on this team appropriately. I ain't going out on a limb and say these guys about to go out here and go 4-2 within the next 6 games. But I do believe that they will be able to make it competitive enough to where we having a little fun rooting on this bad young team. But that is it for me today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure y'all drop your score predictions down below for tonight's game. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel right before you leave. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all always see red, and y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac.